for the short crossing of the straits which would take us to Spanish Morocco. A week after leaving Brussels, we were on African soil. Ceuta, where we land, has modern docks and a modern ramp to lead into the ancient city. But soon we strike inland and enter another world. We are approaching the sacred city of Moulay Idris. It is the time of the Grand Musim, a famous yearly Mohammedan festival. The wealthy Arabs have come on magnificent Arabian horses. Pilgrims flock into the city in thousands. And already the fantasias have begun. See them go, the finest horses and the finest horsemen in the world. Within the city, the crowd overflows everywhere. The rooftops are crowded. Thousands pour through the narrow archways into the marketplace. It is with difficulty that we make our way through the crowd and that Roy Phelps takes his pictures. Entertainers have come to the city from all over Morocco. The solemn fire dancers who hold burning coals in their hands and produce lighted torches from their flowing sleeves. The fire eaters who breathe in flames and smoke and assure the credulous pilgrims that fire is their only diet. And see this fellow. He is only breaking bottles. But wait. He does not break them as you and I. This is the bed he is making. He is very tired and wants to take a beauty rest nap. And see this one. He is not tired, but hungry. No fire for him. Nothing will satisfy him but well-blended broken bottle. What an idea for a breakfast food. And here is a snake charmer as daring as those of India. This is the African black cobra, as vicious and as deadly as the Indian cobras. Drums and flute provide the hypnotic music. And now we are approaching the long forbidden city of Fez. Every day is market day at the gates of the city. And for centuries these walls have witnessed the age-old bargaining of the East. Today is the sheep market, and hundreds of sheep, tied in neat bundles neck to neck, patiently await their fate. Buying and selling is thirsty work. But there comes the ever-present water carrier. And there is the ever-present beggar. Through the ancient gates, we enter into the city. After 30 years of French occupation, old Fez has not changed much, and it has not lost its medieval aspect and traditions. Its guilds of artisans still do their painstaking work by hand in small and dimly lighted workshops. This is a copper worker's shop, one of many hundreds. In every one is a crude lathe, turned without electric power, and artists who have a deep pride in their craft patiently fashion objects of beauty. The medieval tradition of the apprenticeship still survives. It takes many years to graduate from the spinning wheel to the big looms on which the famed, intricate Moroccan rugs and blankets are woven. In the tailor shops, the tailors sit cross-legged. This complicated braiding is necessary to the making of the Arab burnous, and these children will spend their whole youth in learning its hundreds of possible patterns. See the potter at work. Out of a shapeless lump of clay, his hands can produce any graceful shape. They need far more skill than those of his apprentice, who has only learned to decorate his master's work. Someday, no doubt, the narrow streets will make way for wide arteries with clanging streetcars and motor buses. Power lines will run everywhere. The children will be taken out of the dark little workshops and sent to school. But much of the charm of Fez will be gone as well as its squalor. There will remain only its gorgeous mosaic gates and its lovely minarets to bear witness to its colorful and fascinating past. A formidable barrier of mountains separates the fertile plains of Morocco from the barren wastes of the Sahara Desert. Here in Africa are huge cedars and pines and often heavy snow. We had left Europe in winter and had bitterly cold nights in the mountains of Spain. We were back again in snow and ice, and in our first camp in the Atlas, the water in our radiators froze and we had to chip ice off the windshields. Africa is a country of contrasts. Look at this hooded figure, passing in a setting so unfamiliar. Look at the telephone lines, for we're still on a thoroughly modern road, the military road across the Atlas Mountains, superbly engineered and built by the French Foreign Legion for the opening up of France's huge African empire. Away once more, we are now swiftly going down the southern side of the mountain range. We learn to appreciate good hydraulic brakes on roads like these. In less than 4 hours, we will pass from a temperature well below freezing to the almost intolerable heat of the desert. At 6 in the morning, we were struggling in snow and ice. At 11, we're in the Zeus Valley, and the temperature has reached 110. We are carrying over 800 gallons of gasoline in our tanks filled to capacity, and even in tins on the roofs of the trucks. A brilliantly green carpet of date palms is laid in the bottom of the valley, and towards this cool and lovely garden, the road gradually takes us down a series of rocky and barren escarpments. The mountain streams have made the Zeus Valley one of the most fertile in the world, and it is dotted with picturesque villages. The rivers on the southern side of the Atlas Mountains never reach the ocean. They lose themselves and disappear in the Sahara Desert. We cross them on the Foreign Legion's bridges, with an inch to spare on either side, and we enter the Sahara. Reject from your minds all you ever heard about the Sahara being just one huge ocean of sand. There is in the Sahara every kind of barren and forbidding landscape. Huge rocky cliffs, mountain ranges, tumbled masses of rock. In the deepest valleys along its northern as well as its southern edge lie the oases, graceful palms, the vivid green of which contrasts almost violently with the orange red of the sand dunes and the deep blue of the sky. For several hundreds of miles before we enter the absolutely barren desert, they will dot our course, and rough tracks, hard on tires, but easy enough going for our powerful Dodges, connect them with civilization. The oasis oasis villages still cling to the sides of the mountain. In the coolness of the morning, there is busy activity on the roofs. Even the goats live on the roofs. There is the mosque, the muezzin appears, summoning the faithful to prayer. The sun beats down unmercifully on the narrow streets, but there is cool shade along the mud walls and in the dark and crooked passages. And there is little hard work to do, at least for the men. The men don't even walk when they can help it. But there is one work which the women do, and which goes on all day long. The whole life of the oasis depends on the water of its wells. There are lovely biblical scenes at the wells of the women filling and loading their water jars. Every drop of the precious water must be carried up the steep stairways to the village. Throughout the midday hours, the camels chew. Watch this far one bring up its cud. There. And now watch the near one. Up. Desert food is pretty tough and takes a lot of thoughtful chewing. Late in the afternoon, with a good deal of grumbling and cursing in the weird camel's tongue, the caravans prepare to start. Camels are still the desert's only regular means of communication and transport, and the camels should by now be pretty well resigned to it. But who never grumbles at the beginning of a day's work? Their knees have been hobbled all day, and it probably hurts to stretch their legs. Often these caravans, slowly plodding their way across the sands, make a scene of breathtaking beauty. The sands are never still. The slightest breeze lifts and carries a fine golden powder, which comes rippling down the sides of the dunes, and slowly in the course of centuries alters their outline. Old Saharians tell you, the dunes are smoking, and they refer to the light fringe of sand which the wind is blowing off the top of the dunes. Too often, the forerunner of terrifying and disastrous sandstorms. In every one of these oasis outposts, the French have a garrison of colonial troops. It is a marvelous sight to see these horsemen galloping by in their brilliant uniforms, mounted on Arabian horses especially trained to the soft sand of the desert. Their officers are the finest men of the French army, inured as hard as their men to the long marches under a burning sun and to the thirst of the desert. It is not many years since the desert was infested with lawless bands of Tuareg pillagers, and these lonely outposts were in constant danger of attack. This very one stood a heroic and bloody siege. Discipline as strict as that of the finest cavalry schools of Europe prevails here, many hundreds of miles from France, among these hard-bitten desert men. And now we are leaving the last of the roads behind us. Before us stretches the desert, hundreds of miles of sand and gravel, sometimes firm and smooth so that we can make good time, sometimes perfectly hard under a thin covering of soft sand.